What if the peace at Heartland was just the calm before the storm? The land looks quiet, the horses are calm, and the family seems happy. But something is coming. Something big. A shadow from the past is about to return, and it will shake everything they believe in. Amy thinks she's finally found balance, but she has no idea that a stranger is already on their way, someone who knows a truth that could break her heart all over again. And when that truth arrives, it won't knock, it'll crash straight through the front door. The sun rises over the Heartland ranch, casting golden light across the fields. The horses graze peacefully and everything seems normal. But beneath that quiet beauty, changes in the air. Amy walks through the barn, brushing Spartan, trying to keep herself focused. It's been a year since she found some kind of peace after Ty's death. She's been strong, for Lyndy, for the ranch, and for herself. But there are moments, small, sharp ones, where her heart still aches. Lou, now the mayor, spends most of her time in the city. Her visits to the ranch have become shorter and more rushed. Katie notices. She doesn't say much, but her silence speaks louder than words. When Lou leaves quickly one morning to make a phone call, Katie just watches her from the porch, arms crossed, eyes sad. It's not anger, it's disappointment. The kind that builds quietly over time, like a crack in a wall that no one fixes. Jack, the heart of the family, has been moving slower these days. He says it's just old age, but Lisa is worried. She sees him rubbing his side when he thinks no one is looking. He still feeds the horses and checks the fences, but there's a weight on him, one that wasn't there before. He doesn't talk about it, but he's been visiting Ty's grave more often, alone. Tim, on the other hand, has been keeping himself busy trying to fix every problem before it starts. He helps with the horses, works on the barn, even checks in on Lou's business. But his way of helping is loud and sometimes unwanted. He clashes with Amy over small things, how to train a new horse, what to do about a sick mare. Amy snaps at him, then regrets it. They're both hurting, just in different ways. Then out of nowhere a letter arrives. It's old. The paper is worn, the ink faded. It was addressed to Ty, but never delivered. Amy finds it in a box while cleaning out the loft. The return address is from a town she's never heard of, and the name means nothing to her. At first, she wants to throw it away, why open old wounds? But something about it pulls at her, so she reads it. The letter is short, just a few lines. It talks about Ty, about things he did before he came to Heartland, things he never mentioned. The person who wrote it says they need to speak to him, that it's urgent, that it's personal. Amy is shaken. Why didn't Ty ever tell her about this? Who was this person? And why, after all this time, is their message still echoing into the present? She doesn't say anything to Jack or Lou yet. She keeps the letter in her room, hidden under a drawer. But the questions stay with her, and they grow louder with each passing day. Meanwhile, Lyndy senses the shift in her mother. Children are like that. She asks if something is wrong, and Amy forces a smile. Everything's okay, she says, but even Lyndy knows. When grown-ups say okay too quickly, it usually means the opposite. Later that week, Georgie comes back to Heartland for a surprise visit. She walks into the kitchen with her bags and a smile, but she looks different. Stronger, older. Amy hugs her tight, feeling comfort for the first time in days. But Georgie hasn't just come to visit. She has something to say, too. Everything seems to be changing again, not fast but steady, like a river rising inch by inch. And somewhere out there, the person who wrote that letter is already making their way to the ranch. The past is coming back to Heartland, and when it arrives, it will not come quietly. It started with a truck, a dusty, beaten-up thing rolling slowly down the long road toward Heartland. No one saw it coming. No one expected it. And when it stopped at the gate, the silence around the ranch broke like glass. Amy stepped outside, squinting in the sun. The man who climbed down from the truck looked worn, like someone who had carried too many memories for too long. His clothes were rough, his beard unshaven, and his eyes looked too much like Ty's. He introduced himself as Caleb West, and the first thing he said wasn't, "Hello." It was, I knew Ty. We were like brothers once. Amy's heart dropped. She didn't answer right away. She studied him, his stance, his voice, his expression. It wasn't just shock she felt, it was confusion. Ty had never mentioned a Caleb, not even once. And now, after all these years, this man was standing at her doorstep like he belonged here? Jack approached from behind. "What do you want here?" His voice was calm, but the warning in it was clear. Caleb reached into his coat slowly and pulled out a photograph. It was old and creased, showing Ty and Caleb together, young, smiling, carefree. Amy took it in her shaking hands. It felt like touching a ghost. "I didn't come to stir anything up," Caleb said. "But I made a promise to Ty before he left that life, and I never got to keep it." Amy, still stunned, invited him in. Her instincts told her to be cautious, but something else, maybe the same part of her that still dreamed of Ty, wanted to hear more. As they sat at the kitchen table, Caleb told them stories about Ty's younger days, before Heartland, before the ranch, before Amy. A time when Ty was lost, angry, and caught up in things he tried so hard to forget. Some of it hurt to hear, but some of it made her understand Ty even more deeply. But not everyone was ready to listen. Tim stormed in later that evening. He didn't like the idea of strangers with sad stories. He confronted Caleb head-on. "How do we even know you're telling the truth?" Tim asked. "Ty never mentioned you, not once." Caleb didn't argue. He just pulled something else from his pocket, a bracelet, handmade, worn, with Ty's name carved into it in tiny, careful letters. Amy recognized it immediately. Ty had one just like it. But this one had Caleb's name beside it, tied in a knot of leather and silver. Amy clutched it tightly. Her mind raced. The letter, the photo, the bracelet. It was real. But the question remained. Why now? Caleb finally explained. The promise he made to Ty was simple. "If anything ever happens to me, go to Heartland. Make sure Amy knows what I couldn't tell her myself." That hit Amy like a stone to the chest. Jack remained silent, eyes locked on Caleb. Lou, who had just arrived from a council meeting, listened to everything from the corner. She didn't trust Caleb either, but she could see Amy's pain. And she knew what it felt like to have someone come back from a chapter you thought was already closed. The next day, Amy took Caleb to the stables. As they walked past the horses, he stopped in front of one, the newest mare they'd been training. "She's strong," he said softly. "Reminds me of Ty's spirit." Amy looked away. The memories were rising too quickly now. It wasn't just about the past anymore. It was about what Caleb had come to say. "There's more," he said. "Something Ty wanted to tell you but never could. Something about his time in the North. Something that might change how you see him. Forever." Amy froze. Her breath caught. And in that moment she realized the storm wasn't coming. It had already begun. The photo still sat on the kitchen table. The bracelet lay beside it, quiet, harmless, but heavy like stone. Amy hadn't touched either since that night. She couldn't. Looking at them was like reopening a wound she had finally learned to live with. But now, everything felt raw again. The silence in the house the next morning was loud. Lou made coffee without a word. Jack stared out the window for what felt like hours. Even Lyndy, always so bright and full of questions, played in the corner without saying a thing. Then Amy finally spoke. "He said there's something Ty never told me. Something he kept buried." Lou turned, cup in hand. "Do you believe him?" Amy paused, her voice low. "I don't know what I believe, but I need to find out." The decision split the family down the middle. Tim was furious. He didn't trust Caleb and he didn't hide it. Why now? Why show up after all these years? What does he want from us? His voice echoed through the barn as he argued with Jack. But Jack, calmer and more thoughtful, had a different view. Sometimes people wait because they don't know how to carry the truth. Maybe he's here because it's finally too heavy to hold. Amy, caught in the middle, felt herself torn apart. She wanted to believe Caleb was telling the truth. She wanted to believe Ty wasn't keeping secrets to hurt her, but to protect her. Still, doubt crept in. What if the truth shattered the image she had of Ty? What if he had done something terrible in his past? What if love, memory, and grief were all built on a lie? Georgie, sitting with Amy in the loft later that evening, offered quiet support. People are more than one thing, Amy. Ty was good, but he was human. We all have pasts. Amy nodded, but the tears came anyway. She missed Ty so deeply it hurt to breathe, and now she feared losing him all over again. Not to death, but to doubt. Katie, meanwhile, had her own storm brewing. She heard everything. The fights, the whispers, the way Lou kept leaving. She sat on the porch steps that night, knees pulled to her chest, watching the stars. When Lou came out to check on her, Katie didn't look up. Why does it feel like we're all falling apart? Lou sat beside her slowly. Because change does that. It pulls at all the weak threads. Katie turned to her mother, eyes filled with anger and sadness. You're never here anymore. You say family matters, but you're always running off. I don't even know if you care about this place like you used to. Lou was stunned. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came. Back inside, Amy found something else. In the letter's envelope, hidden in the fold, was a second note. Faded but real. This one was different. It was written in Ty's own handwriting, a message meant only for her. Amy sat on the edge of the bed, her hands shaking, as she read it. Her heart raced with every line. The note spoke of pain, mistakes, and fear, but also of love. Deep, unshakable love. Ty had made choices he was ashamed of. Choices he thought would ruin everything if they came to light. But more than anything, the note revealed one truth. Ty had been trying to protect Amy from a part of himself he thought wasn't worthy of her. Amy wept, not because she was hurt, but because she understood now. Ty hadn't hidden the truth to lie. He had done it out of fear, out of love. But now that truth was out, and it couldn't be buried again. As dawn approached, Amy stood outside, watching the sky change color. Jack joined her silently, standing beside her like he always did. "Do you regret letting him stay?" she asked. Jack shook his head. "Regret? No, but I worry. What truth will cost you?" Amy nodded slowly. "Maybe it's time to stop protecting ourselves from the past. Maybe the only way forward is through it." And behind them, unseen, Caleb stood near the barn, watching, waiting, and still holding on to one last piece of the story. It started raining just before sunset. Not a loud, crashing storm, just a slow, steady fall like the sky had grown heavy, with everything Heartland had been holding back. The air smelled like wet earth and old memories, and every drop seemed to carry a weight no one wanted to name. Amy stood in the loft, Ty's note clutched in her hand, staring out at the hills. Her mind was spinning. Caleb had given her the last missing piece of Ty's past. A name, a place, a moment that changed everything. The truth. Ty had once taken the blame for something he didn't do, to protect someone else. He had paid the price for another man's crime, a man Amy had never heard of, but Caleb had carried the guilt forever since. Amy couldn't speak. She just walked down the stairs, straight through the rain, and into the barn. Spartan nickered softly when she passed, as if sensing the storm wasn't just outside. Jack found her saddling up a horse. "Amy," he said, voice calm but firm. "Where are you going?" "To find the man Caleb named. I need to look him in the eye. I need to hear it myself." Jack didn't argue. He just handed her her jacket. But outside, the world had other plans. Lightning cracked far in the distance. A panicked call came in. From the north field, one of the younger horses had bolted through a broken fence during the rain. Amy hesitated. Her mission to find the truth pulled at her, but Heartland needed her, right now. So she rode. Through the mud, through the wind, through the growing dark. The horse was injured, its leg caught in a wire fence. Amy slid from the saddle, heart pounding, and worked quickly to free it. Her hands trembled. The rain stung her face. But she didn't stop. And then something unexpected happened. Lyndy appeared. On foot, soaked through and barefoot, eyes wide with worry. She had followed her mother. Amy gasped. "Lyndy, no! It's not safe." "I didn't want you to leave again," Lyndy cried. "I heard you say you were going. I thought you'd leave and not come back." Amy froze. The truth she had chased so hard suddenly didn't feel as important. Not if it meant losing the one person who needed her now. Amy scooped Lyndy into her arms, holding her tight. The horse, now free, stood calmly nearby, watching. The rain kept falling, but Amy no longer felt lost in it. By the time they returned to the barn, Jack and Caleb were waiting. Amy looked at Caleb, tired, wet, and honest. She nodded, not with trust, but with peace. "I don't need to go see him," Amy whispered. "I already know who Ty was, and nothing changes that." But then, just when everything seemed like it might finally settle, a car pulled up. Not Caleb's truck, not Lou, not anyone from the ranch. A sleek, black vehicle, parked in front of the house. And from it stepped a woman, older, sharp-eyed, dressed in dark clothes. She didn't smile. She didn't introduce herself. She looked straight at Amy and said, "You're Amy Fleming?" Amy nodded, cautious. "I represent the estate of someone, recently deceased. He named you and Ty in his will. I think we need to talk." And just like that, the storm that passed was only the beginning of a bigger one. Cut to black.